All right. As you know, I've been learning Python. And one of the exercises was to code a program that would start a timer every 2 hours, and we'll bring up a web page to remind you to take a break. So it will go for 2 hours, and then it pulls up a web browser automatically, and then there's a video that I've got in the code that it's going to play. And it's going to do that 3 times a day, every 2 hours. But for the sake of time and demonstration, we're just going to do it every 10 seconds. And one thing about Python is there's a million ways to write code to do the same thing. So I've got 2 examples of how this code can be written. Well, the one on the right is what the instructor did as their solution, and the one on the left is how I did it. So to explain some things here, here I've got the code import time. There are what are called Python standard libraries, and these libraries allow you to import the ability to run code or commands that will complete particular mathematical or command lines that are condensed into just a real simple word or two. Instead of having to type in a whole bunch of code with a lot of syntax, a lot of detail, you could type in something like import time and import web browser, and in this example it has web browser.open and the command line, and that will in the background run a whole bunch of code for you to do the execution of the command. So it's a whole lot simpler. You don't have to know all that. You can just you can load that library by just typing in import web browser at the top of the program, and then it knows that as it's running the program, okay, here's some commands that I can go look up in this library that's within my program, and I know what it is that this person wants me to do. So the next thing is import time. So when you import the time library, there's things you can make the computer do, like sleep, like time.sleep. And I've got in there quotes 10, so that's 10 seconds. So it makes the program stop for 10 seconds. Another thing is in this program, which was the instructor's program, is he's got total breaks equals 3 and breaks underscore count equals 0. So what he's doing here is he is defining a variable. Just like in algebra, total breaks equals 3. Well, when you type that in, Python then puts that in memory, and total breaks now equals 3. And break countdown equals 0. So what this program does is, as it runs through, it starts adding 1 to break count. So it starts at 0, and every time it runs through the program, it adds 1 to that. So 0 then becomes 1, and then the next time it runs it, it adds another 1, and then 0 and 1 becomes 2, and then when it becomes 3, it stops what's called a loop. If you look at here, there's a while command. While break count is less than total breaks, keep running this countdown timer, and then when it counts down, open up a web page to remind the person to take a break. After it opens a web page, it adds 1 to break._count. So that's called a while command, and what it will do is it will keep looping through these commands until it's no longer true. And once the break count is equal to or greater than the total breaks, it's no longer true, so it breaks out of the loop and stops doing the program. Now over here on mine, what I did was I defined a variable called n, and I said it's equal to 3. And I said in my while command, I said, if n is equal to or greater than 1, it's going to keep running this loop. Also the same thing, I imported time, and I imported the web browser. So I then wrote a for command. It says for I in range 0 to 10. And then what that does is that's from the time import library that I explained earlier. It's going to count down 10 seconds, and then it's going to open the web browser. Then it's going to subtract 1 from n. So n is going to become 2. Well, 2 is still greater than 1, so it's going to run the same loop again, and it's going to subtract another 1 from 2, make that 1. Well, 1 is either greater or equal to 1, so it's going to run it one more time, and it's going to subtract 1 again from n, making that 0. It goes back up. Well, it's now 0, which is no longer greater than or equal to 1, so it breaks out of the command, and I've got it to where it prints no more breaks. You go home now. So that's how the program works, and I'm going to run this by hitting F5. You can see that it's restarted the program, and it's counting down 10 seconds. After 10 seconds, it opens a YouTube video, which reminds the person to take a break. And it's going to open one every 10 seconds. So now you're ready to go write Python code, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.